Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break from Keys to the Shop. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host, of course, and these are short form episodes that we have put together from the very early years to help you just get some wisdom, some insight to different areas of your business, and hopefully these are helpful to you. If you want to reach out, Chris at keystotheshop.com. And talk to me about what you would like to hear and maybe what you've heard already that's been helpful. So today's episode of Shift Break is brought to you by our friends at La Marzocco. So they've been making espresso machines by hand in Florence since 1927. And in 100 years of doing this stuff, I think you really do get to be this kind of deservedly an icon in the world of coffee. I mean, I grew up with La Marzocco and I've used their machines in some pretty heavy bar situations. Always can depend on their quality of build, the ingenuity that they bring, in innovation. They are doing these things. They are listening to their customers who are coffee shops that need dependability. They need that aesthetic. They need, especially for the espresso machine, to be something that follows the standards of coffee connoisseurs around the world. So the standard for what an espresso should taste like has changed, and quality expectations have risen, but the expectation and quality of La Marzocco has just been lockstep with that. So I would encourage you to go to lamarzocousa.com, check them out, and email info@lamarzocousa.com. Talk to their sales folks, and they'll get you set up with the right espresso machine for your business, for your needs and style. So, but really thankful for La Marzocco. Now, we're also sponsored today by Rattleware, small wares that really just work behind the scenes to make this coffee shop of yours really shine. You don't want to think about the functionality of 100 small things. This is why Rattleware exists. They want to be the functional support, the foundation that holds together that moment where you hand a coffee over to a customer, where you're making that coffee, and you can count on the stuff you're using to make it with. So if you're looking for shot glasses and pitchers and whisks and stuff like that, then there's so many different items that you need to be thinking about. Go to rattleware.com and check them out. They're a wonderful company. They make great products, and what more do you want, really? So rattleware.com. Now, today's episode, I want to talk to you about something that, okay, so this is an irritation that customers have. It's an irritation I have. And when we get irritated by things in a coffee shop, sometimes I think if you go onto a forum of cafe owners, or you listen to these a barista talk about this, it's fun to commiserate about customers don't understand what it's like to be an owner of a small business or a barista. And certainly there is a reasonable expectation for customers to behave themselves in certain ways in this exchange. It is not customer is always right. No way. Customer has been wrong so many times, and we don't have to just put up with anything. But in our quest to sort of make that point, we've also kind of put up with nothing. In a sense, we find ways to caricaturize people, and when they complain, we often feel like, oh, that's unfair. But you know what? We need to be the first ones to hold ourselves to a higher standard than the customer is going to hold us to. So when you go to a place and you see it and it's run down, it is dirty, it is dusty, it's sticky, it's functionally just not doing well, doors stick, just there's grime, the paint is chipping. You're like, you think I am in the wrong place here. Maybe this was formerly a Greyhound bus stop. Like some of these coffee shops, you wonder, was this an aesthetic that you chose? Was this the post-apocalyptic set designed for some sci-fi movie, or am I in the place that apparently is supposed to be a good coffee shop? Okay. Now, that's a thing that you have to grapple with, is that people have been hurt by coffee in the past. They have low expectations. And because of those low expectations, We feel that we don't really have to hold ourselves to a high standard because people don't hold us to a high standard and we can get away with it. That's called path of least resistance. Operationally, it's the equivalent of channeling in the puck of espresso. What you don't get is a great extraction from that. But because you can't see it, because it's in the portafilter, you're really not paying attention. We just accept it that this is, hey, look, it's a shot of espresso. Who cares? Hey, look, it's a coffee shop. Who cares? We're busy here. We don't have time to worry about the details. But if you're not worried about the details, who is going to be worrying about the details? At what point are you going to start taking notice? When it breaks? When people get leaded paint chips in their coffee? When soup pants and everything else is damaged from spilling coffee on these tables that could have been stabilized, but they weren't because we honestly just don't care about the customer experience the way that we do say we do. Like, so we say we care about the customer experience, but what we actually mean is only so far as it when they're in contact with the bar that we're working on, that tends to be the customer experience. But what about in the cafe, on the patio, the sensorial aspects of the whole cafe? This is why today's episode is focused on this idea of, is your coffee shop, if it's been around for a while, is it character or is it neglect? Have you neglected your cafe where you might justify to yourself, well, we're just comfortable, well, we're just quirky, or we have mix match this, that, and the other thing. We're kind of funky. We're all this stuff. We say this as though it's a good thing when actually what we're trying to do is cover up for a lack of responsible stewarding of a space. You can be intentional, purposeful, clean, functional, and detail oriented and still be unique and functional and or quirky and all those things that you say you want to be. But sometimes I think we are conflating filth and some kind of dysfunction with a character trait that we want to be known for. Like it's funny, and then we want to complain when people don't come back to our cafes because people get the ick factor from our coffee shop. Listen, if you're out there and listening to this, I would encourage you to go into your coffee shop, take a really close look around. When you were a kid and you had cereal and you just wanted to read something, now old enough to do this, right? And people probably still do it. You stare at something while you're eating. It's kind of a mindless habit. You're staring into the middle distance, but you get to be very familiar with a really small portion of the kitchen table. Just that little chip. Oh, that kind of looks like a triangle. Well, maybe that's like a hat. And your mind kind of like focuses on it and doesn't focus on it. Customers do this with your coffee shop. There are parts of your coffee shop and they're just kind of wondering, when's somebody going to get this cobweb? This cobweb has been here in this coffee shop as long as I've been coming for the last 2 years, and not a soul has touched it. What does that tell you about the level of attention to detail this coffee shop has? Which they don't care. It becomes the mascot of the coffee shop after a while. As you name it, give it a pair of googly eyes, and now it's a sacred item. So here's what I would encourage you to do. Be the type of business that examines ahead of the customer before they even get a chance to start noticing these things. Do we need to repaint this place? Do we need to clean the concrete and have some pressure washing done? What about the windows, cobwebs, functionality of the tables, cleanliness of the bathroom? Do the doors close easily? Can people lock them and know that they're locked? Can you go out onto the patio and not have to worry about bird poop on the tables? All of this stuff that is just like, oh, there's so many things. Put it in a system, put it on a checklist. Discipline yourself and your team to look out for the small details. And if you really have to get down into tricking yourself to do this, pretend as though a jury that would vote on whether your coffee shop won some amazing cash prize award was going to be visiting your cafe, and these were the things that they were looking for. You would be pretty vigilant or we're going to take a photo of your cafe and put it on the cover of Bon Appetit magazine or something like that. When you start to put into focus your reputation on a grander scale outside of just the customers who apparently will put up with it, it starts to show that you kind of can focus on these little things, and you can have the functionality necessary in your cafe to not be a dysfunctional spot that claims that it's a purposeful choice. So is it truly character, or is it neglect? Hopefully it's not neglect. Make sure that you're paying attention to the small details, the cleanliness, the functionality, the comfort, the sensorial aspects of the cafe experience for the customer in all areas where it could be said, this is my coffee bar. The farthest corners to the espresso machine and everywhere in between, this is what we're supposed to be doing. It's the craft of operations. It's taking care of the shop and taking care of people. So that's all I have to share with you today. I hope that's helpful. And let me know. You can always reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. And I'll see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from Keys to the Shop.